Hello, I'm Wilson Sarria, and welcome to Things Women Should Know About Men. And what is it that you should know? There are two very important things, the truth and information. That's what everything we do here is about, providing you with truthful information. You might not like it when you discover certain things. You might think it's unfair that you have to go through certain processes to have a healthy relationship with a man, but the truth will set you free, and information is power. When you truly understand what it means to be in a relationship with a man, you can make better decisions. You can truly know if the man you see is the right man for you, if he's a man who will be there for you and support you through thick and thin, for real, not just in words. Today, we're going to look at something very interesting, the relationship timeline, because there are different kinds of relationship timelines, and they work differently for men and women. When we talk about a relationship, we're looking for something that lasts, that helps us grow, that helps us go far, and that helps us build things together. But, well, I'm talking about what women think. That's the idea women have. As we've noticed, and as we've seen in other talks and videos, men think differently. We don't have that long-term vision. We're not thinking about building something because we weren't designed for that. Our entire mechanism of action is developed for the short term. But let's see how different types of men develop different types of relationships. So, let's start with relationship type 1. Let's begin. We all have the same one. 25-year-old men and 25-year-old women meet, get together, and have a courtship that lasts a year. That is, when they're 26, they get married. If we look at the statistics, and we're going to base everything we're doing on statistics, because that's what it's about, seeing what happens in the real world, it's not an illusion. Remember, we're talking about the truth and offering you information. So, they get married. But if we look at the fact that 46% of marriages each year and within the next 2 years, between 46% and 56%, let's consider that possibility. What happens in that case? They're 26 years old, they get married, and it ends after 2 years. That means they're both 28 at that point. What happens then? Let's look at the woman's story, not the man's. We'll get to that later. Let's look at your story, the women's story. You meet someone else, another man, and start a relationship, but you already have a kind of warning. So, you don't get married within a year, or you decide to have a different kind of relationship. Let's say you have faith in this type of relationship, so you have a 2-year courtship. After 2 years, you're 30 years old, and you decide to get married. So, we have this man. Let's say he's no longer in the 46% range, but rather in the roughly 20% range of those who divorce after 5 or 10 years. Let's talk about 10 years. So, it turns out that this percentage of men will function in a certain way, but they'll decline after a certain time. This man, the one we're talking about, who had been in a relationship for 2 years before getting married, starts to decline after 6 months. And what happens is that, in the end, it all comes to an end, he gets bored, and after 2 years, he says, "I'm leaving." Now, you're 30 years old, and you marry this man, and you're together for 10 years. But it turns out he can't keep his stamina up long enough. That's what the statistics say. After 10 years, this man, you think he's different, that he's different from your first husband, because he has certain qualities, and because it seems like the strain didn't hit him after 6 months, but it turns out it hit him after 2 years. The thing is, you're very patient, so you endure. And after 10 years, it's not you who end things, but rather when they are the ones who either cheat on you or simply get bored and decide to end it. But when you realize it, you are 40 years old, and possibly, from these 2 marriages, let's say you have 2 children. 2 children who could be between 10 and 12 years old for the eldest, and the other could be 8 years old, if one is from one marriage and the other from the other. So, it turns out you're 40-year-old women with 2 children. But who is this 40-year-old man? He's a man who feels no real commitment because he doesn't have to take his children with him. And we're talking about the vast majority of divorces, where it's always the woman who gets custody, who has to take care of the children, and the husband sees them only occasionally, or the ex-husband. So, if you are 40, things aren't the same anymore. It's not so simple, because it turns out that 40-year-old men aren't looking for 40-year-old women. That's where we have an interesting thing. 40-year-old men start looking for 30-year-olds, or even 20-year-olds, or women who have just come out of a relationship. We'll get to that later. Let's continue with this 40-year-old woman who has to be looking for a man, but it won't be a man her same age. So she has to be looking for an older man, between 45 and 50 years old. Let's say the 40-year-old woman manages to get a 45-year-old man, and the thing is no longer for you. Now, let's say you no longer trust this man in the same way, so you have a longer dating relationship or a more extended relationship without committing to see what this one is like. And let's say you find a man who has already learned certain details in his life, but not enough. So, this 45-year-old man may be, or may return to be, within the streak of men who last 5 years in a relationship and then leave. Then you are 40. We said you left your marriage. During the relationship, well, the 5 years passed. This man ends the relationship. Yes, because he is unfaithful or because of a million things. There are always many diverse things. You are no longer in a marriage. It seems simpler to leave that. And this man is a 50-year-old man who will start looking for 30-year-old women.
Notice how it works for men. The search goes downward, while for you, the search goes upward. In some cases, you may find a man younger than you, but that will always have many problems in terms of immaturity and insecurity that younger men have with respect to older women, or dependency, that they are looking for a mother or someone to support them. Notice the risk you are running. So, you are now 45 years old, and you are not going to find a 45-year-old man who is looking for 45-year-old women, but 50 to 55. So, you meet a 55-year-old man. But if this man, if this 55-year-old man, who must have 2 or 3 marriages under his belt, still hasn't done his homework, you will go back into the same vicious circle. And it turns out that the older the man, the smaller the curve. The duration of the relationships he has becomes. So, a 50-year-old man who enters a relationship and hasn't done his homework, and if you don't test him or make him work, he will last a maximum of 5 years in another of the paths. It is you who will later be 50, 55 years old. You will be alone with older children who are already living their lives and doing other things, and you will find yourselves with a somewhat strange scenario. I would say desolate, yes, because it becomes complex. So, what am I going to look for? What woman at 55 years old? What is she going to look for if men her age are not looking for women the same age? So, this is one of the curves, and here we have seen all that evolution. The ones who do not have a good outcome in that context are you, because you have 3 or 4 relationships in 20, 30 years, but in the end, none of those relationships will be happy. It is different when we are over 70, but there, both men and women are looking for another type of things, in terms of companionship and level of growth. But we have to wait until that age to start building a real relationship, which is not. That's why the things about men you should know. That's why it's important that you test your man the correct way. Why? Because a basic test, when it takes place over 9 months, is what I recommend. What happens if this 26-year-old, 25-year-old woman, instead of that 1-year courtship, does a 9-month test? What happens is that they have 2 courses of action. When I start testing the man, measuring his capacity, educating him in those 9 months, I will always have a relationship. Nice, fun, not boring, not monotonous, because I am always testing this man. And he has 2 options. Either he decides to stay, or he leaves. So, what happens? You are 25 years old. You have been in a relationship for 9 months and you have been testing your man. But now you are the one who has the power to decide. Remember that after 9 months, what you get are possibilities. It is not an exact science. It is not an absolute truth. But you will have the truth and a lot of information regarding that man. So, telling the truth will set you and him free. And the information will allow you to make decisions lucidly, clearly. When one is in love, within the context of the relationship, the brain believes many things. It fabricates them. But when you enter a relationship with a man, and within that process of falling in love, of attraction, you test him, then the man has the two options. If he decides to stay, he is a man who will start to court you every day. He is a man who is clear about the fact of changing and transforming because he wants to be with you. Or if not, he says, "Excuse me, no, but I'm not going for that," and I step aside and I leave. So, you will see him and will be able to say, "No, this is not the one." But it will only take 9 months to be able to make a better decision, and then decide whether to continue the courtship. And the courtship is simply raising the quality of the tests, raising the quality of the information, of the communication, for you to know that man and for that man to know you. That's what it's about. Removing the masks, destroying the masks that we men know how to put on, of our insecurity, of our fears, of our incapacity, of our cowardice. We put on masks. We put up barriers so that you cannot see them. What the 9 months, the first 9 months of testing are about, is to clean up a bit, to hit that so that the outer layers fall off, and when one feels kind of defenseless, kind of naked, then one starts making changes or escapes, because it's not enough.
That is what we are talking about. That is what the things about men are about, yes, because we go back to the same plan. We are talking about two people who were the same age. Yes, the two who were the same age. We have played with that man who was 25, got married at 26, divorced at 28, got married again at 30 and lasted 5 years, 35, then lasted 10 years again, 45, and so on. But he doesn't miss it. He still doesn't know that he is neglecting the building process. There comes a moment after 60 years where most men say, "I did it wrong. It was too much for me." And then that's when he really understands that he has to change inside if he wants to build a relationship. But he scales to 60, and only because life started to hit him, or he felt alone, and said, "I don't have anyone, I don't have anything right now, and I didn't build a family, I didn't build a legacy. So what do?" He starts looking for that empathy, and then he won't look for it in a younger person because he knows it will be difficult, because they will force him here, because there are many demands. We are not talking about money, let's talk simply about emotions, commitment, romance. So, in that sense, for him it will be more complicated, it will be more difficult, and that is why he will look for peers his same age, women of that same, with whom to talk, with whom to go for a walk, with whom to build, with whom to live a lighter romance. Yes, but as I tell you, we don't have to wait until 60 for that. If you don't have to wait, neither should we. But we don't care until we are older. So that's when we look back and say, "Oh my God, I had a woman, wonderful women, and I didn't build anything with them. I didn't fight." Because since we are not designed for that, well, obviously it escapes us easily. So, realize that it is not the same to desire a long-distance relationship as to simply get involved in a relationship without commitment, which is what most men do. Look, I'm telling you. And I have been to many weddings for my job. I have had to attend many complicated things of those same marriages. So what I tell you about the statistics, that they divorce after a year, after 2 years, that is impressive. And you see them at the beginning super excited, on the wedding day, talking about wonderful things about this woman I got. And they even say that to sell, because we are designed, in front of you, to tell you the things you need to hear and to tell the world around. And on the wedding day, I can say many things, but then within those first 2 years, within that first year, is when I have to prove what I said. And I am not designed for that. We are not. So it's too much for us. Next time we are going to see case number 2, because there are marriages that last a little longer, but what changes there are the levels of prominence, of power of men and women, because everything in this is about power. And that's why those marriages that are on this first line of this first level 1 work like that.
because the power game changes and the man gets bored, no longer feels he has power over anything, and decides to leave. And that has many characteristics. It has happened to many of you. Apart from that, we are victims of a number of hormonal things, but we are not designed to fight against them. But we let ourselves be defeated, yes, by passion, by lust, by the beauty, in quotation marks, of youth. And we do not value that wonder we have in front of us, that woman who is capable of giving us absolutely everything. We do not value her because we are not designed. That's why I stress, it is very important that you learn to test your men. And the more expert you are at testing your men, the better results, because I assure you of that. You will not have to wait until you are 45, 50 years old to decide, no, I no longer want anything to do with men, or to say, it hasn't gone well for me. But 3 tests, that is 9 by 3, about 27 months, you will manage. At least you won't have to spend years finding the right man.
There is one who is there for you. I assure you of that. Because men are capable of great feats. Of changing our interior. We are capable of loving with excessive passion, beyond what fantasies or fairy tales say. Because we are capable of sacrificing ourselves and striving and transforming, but we don't know how. That is the problem. That is why we need you to take the lead and start testing us. Because that is how you are going to draw a small diamond or a large diamond out of this coal. Unfortunately, history delivered us like this, at this moment in the present. Immature, cowardly, emotionally uninitiated men. Unfortunately, it is like that. But the only way to generate a change is for the man who realizes he wants to change to start doing it. But that is very difficult. So, we need you, who are our beacon inside. We are all looking for a lasting relationship. We are desirous of building a legacy, but we don't know how. So, when someone shows us the light, when they show us the path, we are willing to walk it, because we know what we can get in return. When we love and someone loves us, we understand that. But at first, the problem is that you love us, but we don't know how to love. So, obviously, there will always be an imbalance in that sense. And therefore, for me, it will be easier for the man to go look for something else, somewhere else, to start over, than to correct, defend, care for, protect what I have now. Any concern, any question you have, if any of you need personalized advice, with pleasure. Just look for me through internal messages, through my social networks, and thank you very much. Leave your comments. And most importantly, share this information. If you have a friend who you think this can serve, he needs this information, she needs this information, then get it to them directly through your WhatsApp or through Facebook itself. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time on Things Men Need Women to Know.